Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, thumma amma ba'd. To proceed. So, inshallah, today we will try to cover, and we, alhamdulillah, have some time to try and cover the rest of this chapter, the whole chapter of ila, or abandonment, and inshallah maybe the whole chapter on division and contempt or rebellion, al-qasm wal-nushuz. Imam ibn Qudamah rahimahullah, who died in the year 620 after Hijrah, said in his book al-Umdat, which is a Hanbali manual on fiqh, under the chapter of Ishrat al-Nisa, Babu Ishrat al-Nisa, or the treatment of women. You do remember that we finished the rights of the husband last time, and today we will talk about the rights of the wife. The Shaykh started, rahimahullah ta'ala, by saying, وَإِذَا فَعَلَتْ ذَلِكَ, and if she does that, if she basically discharged her obligations towards her husband that we have talked about last time. We've talked about his right to intimacy and obedience, and we talked about the issue of service. And keep in mind that the issue of service is different from homemaking in general. Like service, we're talking about serving him. But certainly, I mean, if she is not going to do anything, she will not eat herself. He is not demanded to serve her. So it is, service and homemaking are a little bit different. Child rearing is not included under service. Because as a mother, she is required to take care of her kids. By God, that's an obligation. She does need to take care of her kids. When we talked last time about serving her husband, is she required to serve her husband? And we said that the four schools do not make this a requirement. This is about serving her husband, not about, child rearing or anything of that nature. But then you remember what we said last time. We don't need to repeat it. If she does all the above, he says, if she does all that, she discharged her obligations. إِذَا فَعَلَتْ ذَلِكَ, once she has done that, فَلَهَا عَلَيْهِ قَدْرُ كِفَيَتِهَا مِنَ النَّفَقَ وَالْكِسْوَةِ وَالْمَسْكَنِ بِمَا جَرَتْ بِهِ عَادَةُ أَمْثَالِهَا. She is entitled to the sustenance, clothing, and shelter customarily sufficient for someone like her. Customarily sufficient for someone like her. You cannot, you cannot help but respect their constant, basically, deferment to al-ada, customs, norms, because they do understand that these things are variable and differ from time to time and from place to place. They have always put an emphasis on the ada, which is the habit, the custom, and the urf, the norms, and this is obvious, particularly in these chapters. So, what does that mean, that she is entitled to the sustenance, clothing, and shelter customarily sufficient for someone like her? Some of the scholars said that what matters here is what? What matters here is the, basically, the status of the husband. It is the solvency or insolvency of the husband that matters, because لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها. Allah does not burden a soul beyond its capacity. Allah does not burden a soul beyond what He has given it. So it all goes back to the husband. But again, the Hanbali said that no, it actually has to do with two things, the husband and the wife. It is not only the solvency or insolvency of the husband, but it is also the socioeconomic status and the status of the wife. Well, if you say, but the guy doesn't, it makes more sense to say that it all depends on the solvency or insolvency of the husband, like the other scholars said. And the Hanbalis would answer back and say, well, why did he get himself in that trouble? You know, like if he really wants to live within his means, he could have married someone who would basically help him live within their means. But if you get yourself in trouble, then you will basically need to work a little bit harder so that you could suffice the needs of your wife, your spouse. So it depends on two things. And where do we get this? Where do the Hanbalis get that it is not one factor, it is actually two factors, it's twofold. It's the husband's condition, socioeconomic condition, and the wife's. Well, or the wife's. The first one is لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لينفق ذو سعة من سعته ومن قدر عليه رزقه فلينفق مما آتاه الله. Let one of wealth, in Surah Al-Talaq, Allah says, let one of wealth spend from his wealth, and let one whose means have been restricted, you know, من قدر عليه رزقه, provisions have been restricted, let him spend of what Allah had given him. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها. Allah does not burden a soul beyond what He's given it. So the husband should, you know, give her within reason, should sustain her within reason based on his income, based on his income. But then on the other side, when Hind, the wife of Abu Sufyan, came to the Prophet ﷺ and complained to him that Abu Sufyan is stingy and he does not give her enough, he said, خذي ما يكفيك وولدك بالمعروف. Take what suffices you, or what is sufficient for you and your children within reason. بالمعروف, within reason. But he said ما يكفيك, that which is enough for you. بالمعروف, within reason, in, you know, sufficient for her within reason varies. Who is she? I mean, Hind, of course, is different from, you know, she is a nobility in Quraysh, so what is enough for Hind and her children is not going to be basically little. It would be large. She lived a large life. So it that is where the Hanbalis get that from. But again, at the same time, you know, likely they will say that we just can't force the man to basically, if his income, if that is the income, he should work a little bit harder. But then, as long as they are married, she should also be reasonable and accept the lack of means. It's okay now? Okay. So this is where we're coming to. You know, it is two factors. It is the socioeconomic status of the husband, it's the income of the husband, and the socioeconomic status of the wife. These two are taken in consideration if they were to go before a judge and determine an-nafaqa, you know, the maintenance. Then فإن منعها ذلك أو بعضه وقدرت له على مال أخذ منه قدر كفايتها وولدها بالمعروف. لما روي أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لهند حين قالت له إن أبا سفيان رجل شحيح وليس يعطيني من النفقة ما يكفيني وولدي فقال خذي ما يكفيك وولدك بالمعروف. If he withholds some or all of these rights from her, and she's able to take from his money an amount that is fair and sufficient for her and her children, she may do so. This is because of the report mentioning that when Hind said to the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Sufyan is a stingy man, and he does not give me what is sufficient for me, for me and my children, he said, take what is reasonably sufficient for you and your children. Take what is sufficient for you and your children within reason. Now, why is it that this issue is controversial? If the Prophet ﷺ said it, basically the Prophet ﷺ said, he's not giving you enough, take what you need. You know, you will have access as a wife, take what you need. Without his permission, that is what it means. You know, take without his permission what you need. So the Malikis and Hanafis said that the Prophet ﷺ was acting in, and this is controversial within the Shafi'i madhab, one of their positions is like the Malikis and Shafi'is, and one of their positions is like the Hanbalis. The Hanbalis are the ones who usually would basically presume or make as a default, everybody makes this the default, but they would usually be hard to convince that the Prophet was not acting in his prophetic capacity. He was acting in the capacity of a judge or the capacity of a prophet. He was always a prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But was he there acting in the capacity of a mufti, let us say, or a judge? Was he given a general fatwa for every woman, you know, to take from her husband's money without his permission what is sufficient for her within reason? Or was he given this judgment to, was he acting in his capacity as a judge, and now Hind came to him in his capacity as a judge, and he was acting in his capacity as a judge, so this applies to Hind only, and any woman after Hind, other than Hind, will need another judge to give her that verdict. So that would be the Prophet ﷺ saying to the judges, when a woman comes to you and you determine that she is truthful and that her husband is actually miserly, let her take, you know, just give her a permit or a license, or permit her to take from his money without his permission. Okay. Now, given that we live in a different world today, and given that there are legal concerns and considerations that must be observed here, it is not certainly advisable for women to just to go Hanbali here, because there could be some legal repercussions. You know, I don't think that the law here would allow this.
Secular law.
Secular law, yes. Yeah.
Nothing to do with go ahead or get your own judgment, but in the Hanbali view that you have to find what is fair for the husband and the wife, just to disambiguate, how do they do that? Like, how do you reconcile the average for both, or the equity?
It would be subjective, you know, within the like, you know, a husband who's married to two women. One of them, you know, comes from a very wealthy family. The same husband with the same income is married. If he's married to two women, he will have to be equal in maintenance. So it will, the one that was not well off prior to marriage will benefit from the status of her co-wife, because the maintenance will rise for both of them. We will go by the higher sort of status here. But if let's say a man who makes $70,000 a year, got married to a woman who comes from a family where her father's income, or the way they lived, her father used to make $700,000 a year. And this is the way they used to live. So this man who makes now $70,000 a year, we will still have to pay attention to his income, but within his income, we will go to the higher limit. We will push the limit because this wife of his comes from sort of a background that's much sort of that's wealthier.
So break his
So you break. It's not like you're going to break his back, but if there is always a range. You will always go up within the range. These things are subjective, and there is always a range. So if the woman's socioeconomic status, if she's Hind, then you will go to the top of the range. The top of the range. And if she's not, then you'll, based on her status. But you will factor, the idea here is her status is factored, not only his income. For the rest of the scholars, they will be indifferent to the status of the woman. He makes $70,000, there would be a generic number for someone who makes $70,000. Whoever comes, whenever, you know, the income of the man is $70,000, there would be a generic number. Now, when will that be considered if she seeks separation? Because he's not giving her what is sufficient, within reason, for someone like her.
And what are some examples?
Some examples? Guys, the idea is there is a range, there is subjectivity. You have to understand this. There is, like, if someone makes $70,000, wouldn't you think that there would be a range for the reasonable sustenance? Not one single number. There would be a range. The Hanbalis are saying there is a range, and that range, you will go up and down on that range based on the wife's status.
Not numbers. Would the Hanabila consider putting him in debt because the disparity between him and her are huge? Or would the range be within his cap, his current cap?
If she's not getting enough, they would allow her to borrow on his behalf.
Yes, that was my question. Exactly.
That's crippling.
That's what the Hanbalis do, yeah.
Unsustainable.
Huh?
It's unsustainable.
Unsustainable? Why is he getting himself in trouble in the first place? Why is he getting married to someone who's not? No, really. Why is he getting married to someone who's not from his, the same... Okay. No, actually, the Hanbalis are fairer here. It is fair because you don't just marry any woman, and so you marry any woman, and then you decide that okay, I want to go work part-time now, and then this is my income, this is what I make, you know, just like whoever said that this would be fair. You know, I'm a student of knowledge, and I just want to spend time learning and traveling around, and I want to go to Morocco, spend some time, and then you have like a wife and 2 kids, and you just tell them noodles every day. No, that is unfair. That is not fair, even if it is your income. Why did you marry her? No, really, get real. So if she's okay with it, then she's okay with it. If she's not okay with it, then it's your fault. Okay. Hanbalis are right here. Now, next one. وإن لم يقدر على الأخذ okay. وإن لم تقدر على الأخذ لعسرته أو منعها فاختارت فراقه فرق الحاكم بينهما سواء كان الزوج كبيرا أو صغيرا وإن كانت صغيرة لا يمكن الاستمتاع بها أو لم تسلم إليه أو لم تسلم إليه أو لم تطعه فيما يجب له عليها أو سافرت بغير إذنه أو بإذنه في حاجتها فلا نفقة لها عليه. If she cannot take from his money because of his insolvency or if he prevents her and then she chooses to separate from him, keep in mind, she is able to separate because of his insolvency. He doesn't have enough for her. I'm walking away. Goodbye. That's fine. She has that right. If she cannot take from his money, is that kind? No. Do we advise our daughters to do that? Absolutely not. But does she have that right? Why is it that you hold on to the law when it is on your side, and then you start to say, but this is not really kind, and when it is on the other side? The law is not on any sides. The law is always fair. God's law is always fair. But when it is perceived to be on your side, you say, well, this is the law and we have to agree, and then we can talk about fadl later. We can talk about kindness later. But let's figure out the law first and then address the issue of kindness later. We do the same thing as well when it is perceived to not be on our side. Yes, if the husband is unable to support her, she can walk away from this marriage. That's what they're saying. That's the law. If she is the wife of Sayyidina Ayyub and she sticks around and what a great woman, But do we require her? No, she's not required. So, he says, if she cannot take from his money because of his insolvency, or if he prevents her, and then she chooses to separate from him, the judge must separate them, whether he is an adult or a minor, the husband. If she is too young for him to have intimacy with her, she was not given to him, she did not obey him concerning his rights, or she traveled without his permission, or even with his permission, but for her own interests, then he is not obliged to provide for her. Then he's not obliged to provide for her. When is he not obliged to provide for her? They didn't consummate the marriage. She's still with her father. Why? Because they did not want to consummate the marriage yet. If they want, and he said, I'm not ready, he's bound to spend on her at her dad's home. But if she is, if consummation is not possible because she's too young for consummation, or they did not want to consummate now, they said, no, we're going to need to wait. She needs to finish college first before she moves to your home. He does not have to spend on her when she is at her father's home. So once they say to him, your wife is all yours, take her whenever you want, he's bound to spend on her. Now, if she does not obey him, particularly concerning his right to intimacy, she's not entitled to nafaqah. When is she also not entitled to nafaqah? If she travels without his permission, not entitled to nafaqah. What is the one last thing that is controversial? If she travels with his permission, but for her own interest, she's not entitled to nafaqah. But that is a heated controversy in the Hanbali madhab. So, and A1 and A2 is when I don't want to use capital and small. So A1, she does not get sustained. A2, she does get sustained if he permitted her and she traveled with her. So we can try to reconcile between the two and say it is a matter, it's based on mutual agreement. Let us say she is a working woman and she said to him, I need to be in Tennessee for a month. Well, spend on yourself then. He may say that. If you're going to be traveling and I'm going to be here alone, then sustain yourself when you are in Tennessee. What is wrong?
She's tough. A leadership.
Okay. Anyway. No, this is talaq, not khul', because this is talaq lil-darar, al-i'sar darar. It is called talaq for harm, because of harm. Al-i'sar, his insolvency, is darar to her, is harm to her. You want to work part-time? Good for you. Spend more time in ibadah and studying knowledge. She can't handle it. She can get a divorce and keep her rights because you are unable to support her within reason. So this is talaq, it's not khula. When she asks for talaq because of his insolvency, there are 10 different types of talaq lil-darar. 10 different types of harm that will give the woman the right to divorce. The thing is, the sisters don't investigate enough those matters, so they think that they're out of options. But there are actually 10 different reasons. Ghaiba is one of them for sure, which is his absence. And Asar is one of them. And harm, which is physical harm, would be, according to the Malikis, one of them. And verbal harm, according to the Malikis as well, is one of them. Okay, so let's go back here and go over the subsection. The next one is وَلَهَا عَلَيْهِ الْمَبِيتَ عِنْدَهَا لَيْلَةً مِنْ كُلِّ أَرْبَعٍ إِنْ كَانَتْ حُرَّةً وَمِنْ كُلِّ ثَمَانٍ إِنْ كَانَتْ أَمَةً إِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ عُذْرٌ وَإِصَابَتُهَا مَرَّةً فِي كُلِّ 4 أشهر إِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ عُذْرٌ. Subsection, she is entitled to his company 1 night out of every 4 if she is a free woman. If she is a slave, she is entitled to 1 out of 8. This is in case he did not have an excuse. She is also entitled to having sex once every 4 months unless he has an excuse. Well, so once every 4 months, this is a controversial issue. Now, the idea here is she's entitled to 1 out of 4 nights in terms of mabit, in terms of spending the night with her. If he has 4 wives, she's entitled to 1 out of 4. What if he has 1 wife? She's still entitled to 1 out of 4. Because remember when a woman came to Umar radiallahu anhu and complained about his wife, her husband and his ibadah and so on, and she actually meant to complain that he's not given enough time to her. But when she spoke with Umar, she kept on talking about his dutifulness and his ibadah and so on. And Umar thought, what a good man, and he missed that she was actually coming to complain to him. So when he was reminded that this is a complaint, she was not praising her husband, she was complaining to Umar. Siwar, I think, is the one who reminded him. He said to him, then what would you give her? He said, suppose he has 4 women, she gets 1 out of 4. Let us say that his ibadah is like 3 women, and she is entitled to 1 out of 4 nights. The least is 1 out of 4 nights in terms of spending the time with her, the night with her. Now, does that mean that they will have intimacy during this time? No. And why not? And this is a big issue. So the Hanafi said, and the Malikis, the Maliki position here, people fight over this all the time. What is the Maliki position here? So some people say that the Maliki said that she's entitled to intimacy 1 out of 4 nights. But it seems that this is not the sort of the authorized the Maliki position. It is more like the Hanafis and Shafi'is. And the Hanafis said that she is entitled to intimacy once during the marriage. Once. And the Shafi'is said that there is no entitlement. You know, it is just mabit, because intimacy is not something that the man has the capacity to do. Like if he is not, certainly all of them, as we will study in the chapter of abandonment, would entitle her to intimacy if he is making an oath of abandonment. They would not allow him to make the oath of abandonment. But then the Hanbali said 1 out of 4 months, 1 out every 4 months. Intimacy 1 out of every 4 months. But but Ibn Taymiyyah said, of the Hanbali madhab, but he reported there are two different, there are qawlan. And I don't know what he meant by qawlan, because it does not seem that in the Hanbali madhab, so Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah was not restricted to the Hanbali madhab, even though he was a full-fledged Hanbali. But he would just sometimes walk out, bring some opinions from elsewhere, and come back home with stuff, opinions, foreign to the madhab. So he said that there are two different positions. She's entitled to intimacy once every 4 months, and she is entitled to intimacy bil ma'ruf, within reason. He does need to satisfy her needs within reason. And he chose that he does need to satisfy her needs within reason. And he said that this is a more important right than feeding her and clothing her, to satisfy her needs to intimacy within reason. The vast majority of modern scholars actually take that position. He does need to satisfy her within reason. It is not 1 in every 4 months. It's not once in a lifetime. And she does have the right to that, and she can actually demand it. So what is it? Then we go back and say, so what do you mean within reason? What could be within reason? Once every 4 days is within reason. And that may be a position of some Malikis. Does not seem to be the authorized view in the Maliki madhab, but it may be the position of some Malikis, that what is reasonable here is 1 out of 4 days. She's not entitled to having him spend time with her 1 out of 4 nights only, but also having intimacy 1 out of 4 nights. And we mean by intimacy here intercourse, to be clear, because these are important issues to be clear about them, not just any form of intimacy. Okay, that's it, as far as that is concerned. So it seems that the stronger position is what? Because if it is not determined by the Shara, if the Shara did not say how many times a week, then we determine it by what? Ma'ruf, reason. Everything that is not designated by the Shara will be consigned to what? Al-urf. What is reasonable, what is sensible. Reasonable and sensible seems to be 1 out of 4 days. So almost twice a week. Now the next chapter here is the chapter of Ila, or the oath of abandonment. Why did the Hanbali say 1 out of 4 months, once every 4 months? Because of the following chapter. Because he cannot make an oath to abandon her for more than 4 months. They said, then she must be entitled to intimacy every 4 months, because he cannot make her an oath. So Ibn Taymiyyah said, but this is not true. That the fact that he cannot, sometimes people abandon their wives for a good reason. So if there is a reason that he is abandoning his wife, we will give him up to 4 months, and afterwards he will need to divorce or keep her and go back, resume normal marital relations. But that does not mean that she's entitled to intimacy only once every 4 months. Once every 4 months. So the next chapter, the Sheikh said, under the chapter of al-Ila, or the oath of abandonment, فإن آل منها أكثر من 4 أشهر فتربصت 4 أشهر. And keep in mind that I have to say this, in defense of the A'imma and in defense, they certainly would not mean that her husband should not satisfy her. They're just trying to figure out what is going to be used in the sort of court of law. They're not talking about what should be done. They're talking about, in the case of a lawsuit, is she entitled? Can we force him to have intimacy with her? How often? Like once? Every 4 months? Like every 4 days? What is it? And knowing that, having intercourse for some men it's not always possible. That is why they were discussing it from a legal perspective only. But certainly, all of the Imam, we must think good of them. They must have not meant that that is what he should do, or that is prescribed, or good, like that is good or kind or virtuous or anything. So we have to keep this in mind. But we said that it is bil ma'ruf because it is not designated by the Shara, so it should go back and get consigned to al-urf, the norms. The Sheikh said, فإن آل منها أكثر من 4 أشهر فتربصت 4 أشهر ثم رفعته إلى الحاكم فأنكر الإلاء أو مضي 4 أشهر. It should be 4 الأشهر or 4 الأشهر, because you don't add the alif wal lam. So it probably is a typo. Probably the Sheikh did not. Probably is like a sort of when they. Yeah, or I'll go back and see if the. Huh? No, it's wrong. You don't add the alif wal lam to arba'a. You add them to al-ashhur, or you add them to both. You say 4 الأشهر, or you could say أو مضي 4 أشهر, in the sense that you're adding it to the combination of the words. But when you say when you have a mudaf and a mudaf ilayh, you add al-alif wal lam to both or to al-mudaf ilayh. So when you say من الغير الرجال مثلا, الغير الرجال is wrong. غير الرجال. When you say الثلاثة أصول, you can't say ثلاثة أصول. You say ثلاثة الأصول or الثلاثة الأصول. Anyway, so it's a side issue. أو ادعى أنه أصابها, أو مضي 4 الأشهر or 4 الأشهر. Okay? أو مضي 4 الأشهر or 4 الأشهر. أو ادعى أنه أصابها وكانت ثيبا فالقول قوله مع يمينه. If he swears to abandon her for more than 4 months and she waits until the end of the 4 months and then it takes him to the judge and then he denies either the oath or that 4 months have elapsed, or he claims that he had sex with her and she was previously married, then his claim along with his oath shall be accepted. Okay. So now if he makes an oath of abandonment, he says that he will not touch her, he will not have intimacy with her for 5 months. Then by the end of the 4 months, she takes him to court, and then he denies that he ever made that oath, or he denies that the 4 months have elapsed, or he claims that he actually had intercourse with her, then القول قوله مع يمينه, then his statement will be accepted with his oath. Why? Because she is the one who's desiring to do what? Terminate status quo. Anyone who's desiring to terminate status quo will need to bring what? Produce what? Proof to terminate status quo. What is status quo? They're married. She wants to terminate status quo. She needs to bring a proof to terminate status quo. وإن أقر بذلك أمر بالفيئة وهي الجماع فإن فاء فإن الله غفور رحيم وإن لم يافئ أمر بالطلاق فإن طلق وإلا طلق الحاكم عليه ثم إن راجعها أو تركها حتى بانت ثم تزوجها. Well, first, وإن أقر بذلك أمر بالفيئة وهي الجماع فإن فاء فإن الله غفور رحيم وإن لم يفئ أمر بالطلاق فإن طلق وإلا طلق الحاكم عليه. So we'll stop here. If he admits it, he should be ordered to recant his oath and have intercourse with her. If he recants his oath and has intercourse with her, then Allah is most forgiving and most merciful. If he does not, then he will be ordered to divorce her. And if he refuses to do so, the judge will divorce her from him. And if he refuses to do so, so by agreement of the four madhahib, when he recants, he will have to do what? Expiate for his oath. Expiate for his oath. But if he recants, she is his wife. If the 4 months pass by and he had not recanted, by the last day of the 4 months, the Hanafis will make her automatically, spontaneously divorced from him without judges and without court and without anything. She is not his. Divorce took place. The Malikis, Shafi'is, and Hanbalis will say what? Now she takes him to court. After the 4 months, now she takes him to court. And the judge will separate between them. The judge will terminate the marriage. So for the Jumhur, the Malikis, Shafi'is, and Hanbalis, divorce is contingent on a court order. For the Hanafis, divorce is spontaneous. He made an oath of abandonment, 4 months have passed by, it is spontaneous. للذين يلون من نسائهم تربصوا 4 أشهر فإن فاءوا فإن الله غفور رحيم وإن عزموا الطلاق فإن الله سميع عليم. Those who make an oath to abandon their wives, there is a period or waiting duration of 4 months. فَإِن فَاءُوا, if they recant. So the Jumhur are saying that this ayah means that after the 4 months have elapsed, then we have 2 options. Therefore, it is not automatic according to the Jumhur. It is that the 4 months will give her the option to take him to court and end the marriage. Okay, then he says, the Sheikh says, ثم إن راجعها أو تركها حتى بانت ثم تزوجها وقد بقي أكثر من مدة الإيلاء وقف لها كما وصفت. Okay, so he says, if he takes her back as a wife or leaves her until the end of her waiting period so that she becomes foreign to him, and then he marries her again while there is still more time remaining from his oath than that of the maximum time of abandonment, he will be brought before the judge as I described here above. كما وصفت. Okay, as I described here above. So let us say that he made an oath to not touch her for 1 year, 12 months. To not have intimacy for 12 months. okay? And then 4 months went by. She brought him before the judge. She brought him before the judge, and the judge separated between them. 3 more months went by, her waiting period ended. Or not necessarily, but if he took her back here, or he even let her tabeen to become fully divorced, finally divorced after the waiting period ends, and then he remarries her. But then he remarries her, and his oath is for 1 year. 7 months had passed from the time of his oath. After 7 months had passed from the time of his oath, he still have 5 more months for his oath to finish. So he abandons her again. I mean, she can take him, ask him. So she can take him to court after 4 months and gets another divorce. And it will be enforced also. So the same thing as he described before. You bring him before the judge, recant, no, I will not, okay, enforce divorce. If he made an oath for 2 years, she can get all of her 3 divorces during those 2 years, because she will keep on taking him back to the judge and getting a divorce, and so on. So that's that. Then the Sheikh said, وَمَنْ عَجَزَ عَنِ الْفَيْءَ عِنْدَ طَلَبِهَا فليقل متى قدرت جمعتها ويؤخر حتى يقدر عليها. If he's incapable of intercourse when demanded, he should say, I will have intercourse with her once I can. Then he may be given more time until he can. So if he says, by the time that, I recant, I repent, I recant, but I can't now. I can't do that now, so then he will be given a muhla until he can. That's what he's saying. So the next chapter, so we're done with this. Ila is the oath of abandonment. You cannot make an oath of abandonment to make hajr or abandonment of your wife for more than 4 months. At the end of the 4 months, you either take it back or she can take you to court and get a divorce. Easy. Yes?
What happened? You said if you can't, he'll be given some time. But if he has a disease, he just won't be able to anymore. She had rights to divorce if he's just not able to anymore.
Then we will go back to what we talked about in the previous chapter about people who have a disease and how long they will be, basically the extension that they'll be given until, and we said it's 4 seasons if he has a disease. Now, next is Bab al-Qasm wa nushuz, chapter on division and contempt. The Sheikh says, وعلى الرجل أن يساوي بين نسائه في القسم وعمادة الليل وعماده الليل فيقسم للأمة ليلة وللحرة ليلتين وإن كانت كتابية. The man must divide his time equally among his wives. What matters here is the night time. He should give 1 night for the slave and 2 for the free woman, even if she is of the people of the book. Even if she is of the people of the book. So we are talking here about co-wives and how to divide. And I want you to understand that one issue that is extremely important is that acceptance, particularly for the sisters, the acceptance of the divine law. There is no room for non-acceptance. You could always hate polygamy in your case as much as you want, personally, at a personal level, but not at an intellectual level, not at a spiritual level, not at any level other than the personal level. If you fail to see the wisdom behind it, you have a problem. You have an emergency that you have to attend to your heart, because you are doubting divine wisdom, and doubting divine wisdom is a huge issue. You could, like I said, dislike it in your case, for you, as much as you want, because that is called jibilli, natural, versus the intellectual. People cannot walk away from their self-consciousness to be able to be so impartial that their self-consciousness never comes in the middle. Everything that we do or everything that we feel is filtered by our self-consciousness. But you do really need to look into this matter and just come to terms with it and appreciate the divine wisdom. Keep in mind, I want you to keep in mind one thing, that the cultures that do not recognize polygamy are not monogamous. Is that true or not?
No.
That is fraud. In the cultures that don't recognize polygamy, so many men have multiple partners. The difference is that those partners don't have rights. They're illegitimate partners. That's the only difference. It is not like polygamous cultures, men have multiple partners. I think that when it comes to multiple partners, if you compare Egypt to many of the countries, that ban polygamy, you will find a lot more men in those countries having multiple partners than Egyptians in Egypt, for instance. So it is at the end of the day not in favor of men. And if you think it is in favor of men, you have like some issue with your thought process. Because men do not ever seem to be deterred by that sort of prohibition from having multiple partners in other cultures. In addition to the list of wisdoms that I may not certainly talk about now because it will take up the rest of the lecture. Now, we're doing this just for your intellectual pleasure because you probably aren't going to be using this anytime. But for your information, for your knowledge, the man must divide his time equally among his wives. What matters here is the night time. He should give 1 night for the slave and 2 for the free woman, even if she is of the people of the book. وليس عليه المساواة بينهن في الوطء وليس له البداء في القسم بإحداهن ولا السفر بها إلا بقرعة فإن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان إذا أراد سفرا أقرع بين نسائه فأيتهن خرج سهمها خرج بها معه. He is not obliged to have sex with them equally. He is not allowed to give precedence to one of them in the division or in travel except through casting lots. Because the Prophet ﷺ used to cast lots among his women whenever he intended to travel. The one whose arrow was chosen would be the one to go out with him. So this is it's straightforward. You have to be equal regarding everything that you could be equal about. The Prophet ﷺ used to say, اللهم هذا قسمي فيما أملك فلا تؤاخذني بما تملك ولا أملك. Oh Allah, this is my division with regard to or concerning that which I have control over. Concerning that which I have no control over, don't hold me liable. Feelings. You don't even have the same feelings for your kids. How could you have the same feelings for your spouses? Obviously your kid that is more obedient, that is kinder, that is this and that, you will have more feelings for them. We're human beings. We're not machines. So there is no way that you'll have the same feelings for your spouses. Just like you can't have the same feeling unless they are just equally, but that's also rare. But at any rate, that is not the equality that is demanded. The equality that is demanded is the tangible equality concerning things that you have control over. Division of nights, sustenance, things of that nature. And even we said sustenance, if you married a princess and a peasant, The mahr could have been different, but sustenance is going to be the same. Sustenance, ongoing sustenance is going to be the same. Now they are all your wives. They're entitled to equal treatment. So, so then the sheikh, so it's clear. So in order for you, when you can't divide anything equally, that's the point. Whenever there is room to divide things equally, you've got to be fair and to divide them equally. Let us say you cannot divide them equally. You can only take one with you on a trip. What do? Flip the coin. But flip the coin is for people who have only two. You know, they used to draw lots because flipping the coin does not work there if you have four, unless you make it like a championship, like. But anyway, you'll have to draw lots here. So drawing lots is prescribed, or flipping the coin if there is only two. And that would be fair, because that would not be favoritism. That would be her sort of qadr. But then when you take one with you, you make up the others when you come back, by the way. Even if you take one with you, you will make up the others when you come back. وَلِلْمَرْأَةِ أَنْ تَهَبَ حَقَّهَا مِنَ الْقَسْمِ. The next point here is وَلِلْمَرْأَةِ أَنْ تَهَبَ حَقَّهَا من القسم لبعض ضرائرها بإذن زوجها أو له فيجعله لمن شاء منهن لأن سودة وهبت يومها لعائشة فكان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقسم لعائشة يومها ويوم سودة. A woman may give her share of her husband's company to one of her co-wives with her husband's permission. She may also leave it up to him to appoint it for whom he chooses. This is because Sauda gave her day to Aisha, so the Prophet ﷺ used to give Aisha her own day and also Sauda's day. This is a little bit problematic. You know, it is fine to have a problem with this. Some people may say, why is it fine to have a problem with this? Because the reports that have been, the sort of the explanation of Sauda giving her day to Aisha seems to be to conflict with our image of the Prophet ﷺ to some extent. Okay, why? The first thing that I want to tell you is, and this is doing a little apologetics here, not fiqh necessarily, but a little apologetics. The first thing that I want to tell you is that Ibn Hibban reported, or was it Ibn Hibban or Ibn Majah? I think Ibn Majah reported from Ali radiallahu anhu that he said, إذا حدثتكم بحديث عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فظنوا به الذي هو أهناه وأهداه وأتقاه. إذا حدثتكم بحديث عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فظنوا به الذي هو أهناه وأهداه وأتقاه. So when I report to you a hadith from or concerning, but more likely here concerning the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then think of him, think of the Messenger in accordance with that which is ahna wa ahda wa atqa, that which is most virtuous, most guided, most pleasant, most guided, most pious, most pleasant, guided, pious. What is he saying here? That whatever we will be reporting to you from or concerning the Prophet, oftentimes this is our report this is, unless they are quoting the Prophet ﷺ verbatim. And also, if you quote the Prophet ﷺ verbatim, then you will have to ask about context, because words do not have meanings in abstraction from context. Words have meanings only within contexts. But if it is not quoting the Prophet ﷺ verbatim, that even makes it a little bit more difficult, because there could be their own sort of their own iteration of the story. People can look at one story and everybody walks away with their own iteration of the story, what they made up of the story. So Aisha radiallahu anha, when she says that Sauda feared that the Prophet may divorce her, so she gave her day to me, that may be Aisha's impression. Did she, actually know what is in Sauda's heart? And that may be her impression. Ultimately, is she entitled to have that impression? Yes, she may be. Well, she, particularly not all that impression, but if Sauda comes to Aisha and says to her, take my day, then Aisha may feel that Sauda wanted to please the Prophet ﷺ by giving her day to Aisha, who used to be the Prophet's favorite ﷺ. But that is Aisha's impression. Sauda did not say that I fear that the Prophet ﷺ made that. The only one that can say that Sauda feared the Prophet ﷺ, and this is how you look at this, because we have 4 different possibilities. The Prophet divorced Sauda, and that is completely weak, but that has been reported, and she wanted the Prophet back, so she gave up her day. The Prophet intended to divorce Sauda, was about to divorce Sauda, and that also cannot be established. Sauda felt that the Prophet will divorce her, so she gave her day to Aisha. The only thing that we can reliably within what? These are all singular reports. Reliably within reason. Within reason, we do accept the authentic singular reports, and we do act upon them. Do they confer certainty? No, they do not confer certainty. But do we accept them and act on them? Yes, we accept them and act on them. Reliably within reason, the only thing that is connected that we can make is that Sauda gave her day to Aisha. We can know this much we can know. Who said that she felt that the Prophet ﷺ will divorce her? Aisha. That feeling, the only one that can tell us of this feeling would be Sauda herself, because it's her feeling. Okay, so if that is not Sauda who said, then who said that the Prophet ﷺ intended her? It was not the Prophet. He never said that he intended. Someone may have been under the impression that the Prophet intended, which even is not traceable to the Prophet ﷺ. So all we have is that Sauda gave her day to Aisha. Was it because the Prophet ﷺ was marrying them young, and then whenever they got old, he wanted to replace them and get younger ones? No, he was marrying older people, and he married Sauda when she was already old. She was already old. It's not like this happened after 40 years of marriage to Sauda. Happened only a few years after marriage to Sauda. Keep in mind, until the Prophet ﷺ left Mecca at age 53, he was married to one woman only, which is Khadija radiallahu anha. It is only that when he arrived in Medina that he married more than one woman. Sauda was already old, and the Prophet ﷺ married her when she was old. It is very possible that Sauda had reached the age where people just, like some women, not all women, not being stereotypical, some women are not really interested in intimacy and not interested in all of that stuff, and they're not interested in men from that particular angle. And since the Prophet ﷺ used to spend time during the day with all of his wives, she felt that she just doesn't have interest in the other stuff. So she gave up her day. And could she have done this to please the Prophet ﷺ because, she knows that he likes Aisha or he loves Aisha? Possible. Is there a problem here? No, there is not. She felt that she is not interested in that aspect of marital life, and she felt that it is enough for her to spend time with the Prophet ﷺ during the day, and she's not interested in intimacy because she's not interested in men in that way. That's fine. There is no problem here. So when we get reports like this, you get like two types of reactions. You get the die-hard conservatives who are trying to basically wage a war on behalf of every report and every reporter and every narrator, and sometimes sacrifice the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just so that they can defend his sunnah. And then you have on the opposite side the people who want to wholesale say, oh, this stuff is just, doesn't make sense, and there's so much wrong here in these reports or in the tradition, and they want to undermine the value of these reports and the value of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. What you need to do is you need to be reasonable, calm down, and prioritize the Prophet ﷺ over the reports. When you're doing this, understand that there is something called the filter of self-consciousness, that the reporters around the Prophet ﷺ, even the Sahaba who saw him, they have their own individual self-consciousness. There is the filter of self-consciousness. So when you hear something that is coming to you through narrator, and another narrator, even given the accuracy of what they narrated, they are describing things through their own filters. What you need to do is to think of the Prophet ﷺ in accordance with that which is most pleasant, most guided, and most pious. And do not allow the transmitted image to distort your image of him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because that transmission may not be wholly accurate. So when we defend the Sunnah, we defend the entirety of the Sunnah, the body of the Sunnah. It's not like you're going to defend each report, and you're going to defend also, you have to defend each report regardless of the strength of the report, and regardless, so whenever a report is accepted traditionally, or the tradition seems to be accepting of that report, that does not mean that you wage the final war in defense of that particular report or that particular common understanding in the Turath or the tradition. الشيخ بن سعد وإذا عرس على بكر أقام عندها 7 ثم دار، وإن عرس على ثيب أقام عندها 3 لقول أنس رضي الله عنه من السنة إذا تزوج البكر على الثيب أن يقيم عندها 7، وإذا تزوج الثيب على البكر أقام عندها 3، وإن أحبت الثيب أن يقيم عندها 7 فعل ثم قضاهن للبواقي، لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لما تزوج أم سلمة أقام عندها 3 ثم قال ليس بك هوان على أهلك، إن شئت أقمت عندك 3 خالصة لك، وإن شئت سبعت لك، وإن سبعت لك سبعت لنسائي. If he weds a virgin, he spends 7 days with her and then he resumes the normal rotation. If he weds a non-virgin, he spends 3 nights with her, not because, the non-virgin could have been a lot prettier than the virgin. But the virgin is not accustomed to marriage. The intent of spending 7 days or 3 days is for al-uns, to remove that haiba, that fear, that an anxiety that they have. Remove the anxiety. When you get married, obviously the first timer will have a lot more anxiety about marriage than the second or the third timer. Therefore, you need time to calm her down, spend time with her so that she gets used to you and stuff like that. Okay. Then he says, this is because of the statement of Anas, it is of the sunnah for one who marries a virgin to spend 7 nights with her, and for one who marries a non-virgin to spend 3 nights with her. If the non-virgin wishes for him to spend 7 nights with her, he should do that and then make it up to his other wives. This is because when the Prophet ﷺ married Salama, he spent 3 nights with her, and then he said to her, you have no inferior position among your family. If you wish, I will spend 3 nights all dedicated to you. If you want me to spend 7 nights with you, I will do that, but then I will spend 7 nights with the rest of my women. So if he's married and he gets married to another woman, he interrupts the rotation and gives the new wife 7 or 3. Virgin will have 7, non-virgin will have 3. This is outside of the rotation. Outside of the rotation. Now, what he's saying here, if the non-virgin did not like the 3 days, she wanted 7 at the beginning of the marriage, that is fine. He can give her the 7, but then it is not outside the rotation. Then he will make up the rest of the wives. If he has 3, it will be 7, and then 7 for the other one, the 2 other wives, will be 7, 7, 7, and then he will resume the normal rotation, whether it is 1, 1, 1, or whatever rotation. And I will just finish in. Then the Sheikh said, etiquettes of intimacy, فصل ويستحب التستر عند الجماع وأن يقول ما رواه ابن عباس قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لو أن أحدكم إذا أتى أهله قال بسم الله اللهم جنبنا الشيطان وجنب الشيطان ما رزقتنا فقضي بينهما ولد لم يضره الشيطان أبدا. Subsection, it is recommended to cover oneself during intercourse and to say what Ibn Abbas reported from the Prophet ﷺ, if one of you says in the name of Allah, O Allah, protect us from the devil and protect the progeny you grant us, you grant to us from him, when he approaches his wife, and then it is decreed that they have a child, Satan will, or Shaitan will never harm him or her. So you make the dua, all the time. We're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. Now, to cover during intercourse, this is a Hanbali thing. You don't have to take it because it's controversial. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hadith that the Hanbali cite here, وَلَا يَتَجَرَّدَنْ تَجَرُّدَ الْعَيْرَيْنِ, let them, when one of you approaches his wife, let them cover up and not uncover like 2 donkeys, That hadith is not authentic. Okay. Now, the other hadith that is cited by the Jumhur, the Hanafis, Malikis, and Shafi'is, who do not consider covering to be of the etiquettes of Jama', of the, sort of important etiquettes of Jama', they say, the Prophet ﷺ said, احفظ عورتك إلا من زوجك وما ملكت يمينك أو كما قال. Cover your aura except from your wife and those your right hand possesses. So it seems that the majority here have a stronger position because there is no proof to prevent. And why is it that it is not always a good thing to basically err on the side of caution? Because sometimes when you err on the side of caution and you force things on people, they can have consequences. If this is not established and Allah did not say it, then there is a reason why it is not established and Allah did not demand it. It may be that for some people, satisfaction will not be had with, if they cover. So it may compromise one of the purposes of this sort of, relationship. Okay. Now, the Sheikh said, فصل وإن خافت المرأة من زوجها نشوزا أو إعراضا فلا بأس أن تسترضيه بإسقاط بعض حقوقها كما فعلت سودة حين خافت أن يطلقها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Subsection: If a woman fears contempt from her husband or abandonment, she may seek his pleasure by giving up some of her rights, as did Sauda when she feared that the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم might divorce her. We went over this. She feared, whoever told us she feared? Sauda did not tell us she feared. It would have been Sauda, the only one who can know whether she feared or not. It would be the only one who would know that he intended to divorce her would be the Prophet. Intended to divorce. Who can read intentions? But if the Prophet said, I intended, yes, everybody knows their intentions. If Sauda said, I feared, well, if Sauda said, I feared, does that say that the Prophet intended? No. It would be Sauda's impression. But at least we can believe it because she is talking about her feelings. These are her feelings. Warranted or not, it doesn't matter. Because your feelings may not be warranted, but they are still your feelings. وإن خاف الرجل نشوز امرأته وعظها فإن أظهرت نشوز. We're going to get into this now. We will defer this until next time. We'll stop here, inshallah, and then we will come back next time and finish off this particular segment. Because we do need to talk about it a little bit, in some detail. قل قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.